Hello everyone. Hope all is doing well today. It's a hot one here in the foothills again today. Good morning, Kathy. Oh, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Hi, Lynn. I hope Washington is a lovely place today. We've just really been having such hot weather. And hi, Denise and Jan. Good afternoon already. Wow. But that would be true since we're 3 hours difference on that. So good afternoon, Jan. All right, today we're going to finish up the Desert Windmills. A little part of me is kind of sad about that. Really do like to really like this pattern. It's been fun to work on, and it takes a little bit more time, which is kind of nice because I can switch. I've been able to switch it up and do the order differently to see if there's a way I can do one faster than the other. I don't think that's necessarily true, but it's been a fun project. At least I have thought so, and I hope you do too. I have a favor to ask of you today. While you're watching and going through the finishing touches for this quilt today, if you wouldn't mind putting into the chat box or sending me an email or putting it on the forum, what would you like to learn? What is something that I could be helpful to you in over the next weeks or something before we start our next project and stuff. So if you want to throw something up there, that would be helpful to me and hopefully helpful for you. So let's take a look at the pattern. I'm going to drop you down to the table, and here's our pattern. And we're going to talk a little bit about this border. Let me see. We have this border that came on the pattern, which I love. And then when you're looking at your, let me see if this just looks so blurry today. And maybe I need to clean my glasses. I don't know. And then this one has a different type of border. It has a more pieced border with half square triangles and different things in it. But let's take a look at where we've been. Last week we talked about sashing, and so we made our little sashing pieces. They called them wings, and so we made 3 that went to the left, and we made 3 that the top piece went to the right. So they're opposites of each. Whoops, let me see. They're opposites of each other, and so you had to have 3 of each kind on that. And so I've put my sashing strips together, sewing them according to the cutting directions, and the cutting direction seems to be right on point, so that's wonderful. I love it when that happens. And then before we put the sashing on, though, we need to put in our sashing going the other direction. So I have, the first block on the first row, I put sashing in between and sewing the next block to that, and we'll keep going with each row. So making all of the rows to your quilt. I don't have them sewn together yet. When that happens, I will definitely we'll do show and tell on the channel. It's still got a lot of threads all over it, and so that needs to happen. And then you have your border on the side. They give you the cutting directions, your 2.5-inch border that separates that. Now I tried something a little bit different, and that was to put in, instead of half square triangles, I just tried straight squares. And I think I'm going to go with the you know, all the light colors in with those squares, and then all the other ones here. I'm not sure I like this better than the solid one. There's a part of me that wants just to keep it as the first, you know, on the first picture, because I do like all that color. I'm a kind of a color person, and this just, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I probably need to sew a couple of more. The strips are similar in length, so I don't think I'll be wasting any fabric, but just to see how I, you know, like it with that separated piece border. But a part of me thinks I might go back to that. If you do something different on your quilt for a border, I hope that you will send a picture, because I would like to see, you know, others' thoughts on that. But I want to talk a little bit about, you know, pressing issues. You know, these blocks have a lot of seams back here, and in the center where all of those you know, seams come together into the center pinwheel, it can get, you know, quite thick. So I found that spraying it slightly with the Acorn Precision Piecing or pressing solution really helped flatten this out. I think Best Press or Flatten would do some of the same things with that, but I really, when it comes to some of these, you know, hard coming together, you know, joints where you can actually, you know, kind of feel it raised a little bit, the precision pressing, precision piecing pressing solution. I think I got that right, but it's by Acorn, and they do sell it in the store. So I think that is very important to do. But again, when we have so many seams and it's difficult to press it, we tend to want to do a lot of this. And I would encourage you not to do that, because what will often happen when we are really trying to press it and think that if the harder we press, the better, you know, the flatter it will get. And in some cases that may somewhat be true. But you also, as you're doing that, you get those curved sides on your quilt. It'll start to curve. Has anybody gotten that? And you're going, well, how do I get rid of that? The way to get rid of it is not to iron. Is basically the easy answer to that. And here I pressed everything, you know, to the top, and so it was a matter of getting that side, you know, those seams in, and then just letting the iron sit for a few minutes, and I got that flat look to the block. And you know, you can see that the points will come out, and it keeps it flat. So that's one thing to think about when you're pressing that, and you won't get those curvy or wavy edges. And you know, we forget that sometimes as we go through that. And then I want to talk about pressing, you know, long strips as much as I want to talk on the other. I got a little press there. The other thing is when we start to work with these long strips, and we want to lay our, you know, strips this way, and we iron. Well, your hand and your arm is like a pivot, and if you just look, you have to really think about and move the hand back and forth to keep it straight across. And so what happens is we basically iron those curves into our strips. So I want to encourage you, as you are creating your long strips for your sashing, that you press this way. And when you are pressing, again, it is simply moving the iron down and keeping it straight. Now, when I first started really working at doing that, I drew the lines like your mat would have on my ironing board, and I would work to keep the sides on that line across the center of my ironing board, so that I could make sure that it was lined up straight, and I would press. I don't do that anymore. I've gotten several ironing board covers since that time, but it reminded me and helped me when I was first learning to sew that way. But even before we get to that point, there's another thing that we need to think about and remember. As we are cutting, let's say our long strips, and here is a long strip, and oftentimes we fold our fabric up. I cut this from the length, the lengthwise, and put it, and I'm, I don't have my whole thing of fabric here. It would be very hard to put it in this space to do that. But the very first thing that one needs to do to keep those straight strips is that when we are ironing or pressing these strips, we need to make sure that this bottom part right here is very flat. And if I can feel a separation with the two layers that I have folded over, I will often take a card, a tool, something, and I will run it in. My ruler works pretty well too, and I will make sure that that's nice and flat in there, and fold that again so that I can see, or feel in this case, that those are laying together and they're flat. Then I will square up my side, cut my strips so that when I open them, I don't have that rainbow effect. Every now and then I still get it because I get in a hurry. I try to do things too quickly, and I'll get a slight rainbow in it. I go back to my my pressing mat, my ironing board. On this little one, I could just line it up with the edge of that, and if I have that rainbow somewhere, I will squirt it with water. I will flatten it with my hand, and then I will press that rainbow out of it, get it back in straight order, because when we begin to sew those crooked lines in our quilt, what happens is that I have my row of blocks with their sashing between them. Then I put this strip into my quilt that has a bit of a rainbow, and I will pull it to keep it on the edge here. But then when I get to this edge, I have to do the same thing again, and in that sashing piece or that border, I will get that pulling or that wrinkle and curve. So to avoid that, it takes me a long time to explain it here, but it doesn't necessarily take a ton of time to do it when you're actually in the process of putting your strips together. So I wanted to kind of thoroughly go through that today and talk about getting our strips straight. The other thing is, if you are doing this, the mitered corners, one of the things that I will do next week is I will go through mitered corners. I actually, quite frankly, forgot about doing that. I could take the side of this. I looked at that pattern so many times and didn't actually see the mitered corner. So when you're doing a mitered corner, let's just see if I can quickly do this without making a total mess of what I'm doing. I have my border on here, and this is 2.5 inches. So what I want to do with this border is I want to make sure that I have at least extended this another 2.5 inches. It certainly can be more than that because, you know, the excess I can cut off, but I want to make sure that I have sewn this on and left at least you know, 2.5 inches more. And I'm going to stop at my 1/4 inch when I sew here, and when I sew my top one on, I am going to leave it at stop at 1/4 inch, and I mark that so that I have those 1/4 inches there. So the other, you know, if you have 2 pieces, you're going to have, you know, this piece that's 2.5 inches longer, this piece that's, you know, 2.5 inches longer here as well. Those are going to be sewn onto your quilt, and then when you turn them over, this corner folds in, and you will have those 2 borders lining up, and it'll all fold in like, you know, like this. What you do to get that 45-degree angle is that you put your 45-degree angle across the top of your quilt, and I usually use the seam line. This is really awkward because it's such a small space, but I will do this again next week, I promise. So if you get your borders sewn on, and leave that if you're doing the mitered, I'll show it again next week, but for those who haven't, so I do my, you know, my 45-degree line, and then I put that where my 1/4 inch has come at the edge, and then I have my 45-degree line that's going onto my quilt, and I can sew that mitered edge. But I promise that I will do mitered corners next week for those who might need them. So anyway, finishing up. This is a kind of a short lesson today, simply because now we just need to finish up, and I have 2 more blocks to make, so I don't have my last row sashed here. I have these 2 rows all taken care of, and I have my borders, you know, the outer border, because I haven't totally decided. I don't have that quite done. But I also want to share with you on the page here, and the B's are the same size, and they're a different size. These are, A is 12.5, those B's are 11 3/4, and the C strips are 11 inches. Pay attention to that as you are cutting and putting them out between your wings, because they are different sizes, and, you know, watching that. Your E pieces here and your D pieces, the 2 D's are the same, and they're showing to put those on the side, so when you cut it, those are, D is your side pieces, E is your top and bottom on that. And then depending on this out here, if you're going to do the half square triangles, and these, the F, I think those are like 7.5 possibly, or something to that effect. The other ones I think are approximately the same size, cut at a 45-degree angle, so that you get those, you know, those angles on it all the way up and down. And actually, by the time you get to this corner, it's already basically mitered for you as you put that in, because you are cutting those at 45-degree angles. are there any questions? Let me just check and see what I have here. Yeah, quilt as desired. You know, I did a show where I had someone come in and talk about that, and I may go and do something with that again, because Kyla, I will tell you, that is not my forte, but I will definitely, we'll touch on that. And all right, I am not seeing too many questions on there, but thank you for, I really appreciate the fact that you put up things that are of interest and desire for you to learn. That helps me as I am doing this, because from my, you know, my standpoint, I'm playing more or less a guessing game, saying, what do you think they will want to learn now? And one of those things that I hope to do for next week is, I have been seeing, I don't know if you have either, but it's been coming across, you know, a lot of my Instagram followers, and it has hit, you know, a number of the, you know, quilting sites and things. You know, you look at one thing and then you get at least 100 other things similar to it, and maybe that's what's happening, and I just think it's becoming more thoughtful. But the hunter star, so that's what I'm thinking of doing next week together, because I haven't made one in many years, and it's such a beautiful block and creates such a pretty quilt. So I'm going to work on Hunter Star for next week. And if you have any further questions regarding Desert Windmills, my email address is right there on the screen. Please post your pictures in the forum. I love to see your finished work, and I know some of you have emailed pictures and things of quilts that you are entering into quilt shows in your area, and I think that's wonderful. It's something that I have never been brave enough or just done it, and I haven't done that. So I applaud you and, you know, jump up and down with excitement on that. And so hopefully you have enjoyed doing this Desert Windmill block, and look forward to putting together a Hunter Star next week. And we'll see you next week, and have a wonderful week, whatever you're doing.